Before we get into today's video, this week's video, this is going to be the last Friday, every Friday, launching of a video or dropping of a video for a while. We're doing other things. The pace is a little crazy sometimes, and my projects in line are winding down. I got small projects I want to do. I will still publish videos. They're just not going to come every Friday. So that's the name of that game. And with that, let's get on with this one, which is more tape loom stuff. Welcome back to the shop on the channel. This is going to be a mortise job. So in the previous video, I showed that I cut all these blind mortises and one through mortise in this tabletop for a loom. But there is a mortise that goes in at 10 degrees. And that's for this little roly-wheelie thing, and it goes here, and it has to sit at 10 degrees. Well, it doesn't have to sit at 10 degrees, it just looks better. This can sit straight up, it doesn't really matter, but it looks better if it's 10 degrees. So I need to basically pre-drill and chop out the mortise for the 10 degrees for that tenon right there, the tenon. And to that end, I have purchased a new tool. You've seen these locally, you've seen these before other people make them. This is not woodpeckers, even though it's red. I got this from Banggood in China. Yes, it's a China tool. Forgive me, gang. And it's Enjoy Wood is the company. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a link in the description to a woodworker in the Netherlands, Dennis, on Hooked on Wood. And he has a whole series of reviews of China tools. He calls it China tools, but mostly from Banggood, all from Banggood, of different manufacturers. They stepped up their game. This is much more precise and easier to use than I had one other one that was kind of, it stuck up and down, and it really wasn't very stable, and you couldn't get fine degrees on it. I don't know if you see this in camera, but I can individual degrees and tighten these handles, and it locks it at the individual degrees. It also has detents for standard degrees here. So, link in the description again to Dennis. So what I need to do is I need to align it with the mortise, which is here, but it has to be precise. And it's a half-inch mortise, but instead of drilling half-inch, I'm drilling undersize, and I'll use the chisel to get it correct. So the first thing I do is I put a fence in. I'm going to put a fence up. Let me show you some of this stuff, by the way. I don't know if you can see the lines in camera, but there's a line here and here on either side, and this corner here just gets chopped off. So it's tapered toward the user. I've marked the line where the fence needs to go, which is right here, to hold this exactly where I want it to drill a hole, and that is not a half-inch, obviously. And the only change I made to this was I made a lanyard to hold the chuck key so I don't lose the chuck key. So let me put this in place, and we'll go to drilling some holes. So there's my fence, and this is going to ride up against it like this. And what I do is, this has a little bit of play in like all of them do, and I just put the brad point on the line. There's a line in the middle of the mortise here, and an end and a start point. And I put the brad point on the line, and then drill the hole all the way through. And to make sure it doesn't move, I can clamp it in place just like that, and now it's steady. So off comes the there we go. So now let's drill some holes. A 10-degree block that I can put on the end here and use as a guide to get the final lines correct. So that's going to be the fun part. So I'm going to start chopping this out. I'll do a quick chops, and we can we can come back later when it's done and I'm fitting this finally. So let's do some chopping. I'll do some chopping. You don't have to see this on camera. Okay, it's set in correctly now. I had to do a little cleanup around the edges, but it's fine. This is where the little roller goes that I think, yeah, it's right here. And the yarn comes in from the heddles, these things, over here and down under where it's drawn up here on another drum. Now, that's done. The next thing I need to do is do the tenons and the dados on the towers that go here. This is a test piece. You always cut out a test piece that's the same size. So when you're making dados, and tenons, you get them the right size in a test piece before you do the real thing. This is basically an example of what that is. So we got these dados here that the heddles run up and down in, and then there's a tenon that goes in the bottom that goes into the table, and then we're going to cut a little decorative edge on the corner of this, and then it gets a piece across the top to hold it in place. So those are the next two things I need to do now that this is done. I've set up the dado stack. I've got it set to 1/2 inch. I've got the stop is going to be my sacrificial fence. And I've already started. What I need to do, excuse my cough, is to nibble away at this tenon until it matches the mortise in the table right here. And sneak up on it. And because I've got this long piece, if I make a mistake, I can start over again. So let's do some of that thing. There we go. Okay, so I've got that set so it just now fits the hole, fits into the mortise. Mortise and tenon. I'll trim the shoulders later, but right now I want to get my pieces that are going to become those towers and do the tenons. And the tenons have to be just under 1 inch deep. So let me get my pieces of wood and we'll start on that. So there's the tenons for the mortises on the table top. They have to be a little less than 1 inch because of distance and fitting and all kinds of stuff. I'll do the shoulders later. Right now, I want to do a test cut. Keep the headset on for now, because the heddles have to move up and down in this slot right here. And the heddles were made out of precisely 1/2 inch stock. I've got a little more than a 1/2 inch width on the dado, but it doesn't matter. If it's tight, I can just do 2 passes on each one. Do 2 passes. Run them through for the initial dados and move the fence a little bit, run them through again, and that gives you more clearance. Let's try that. Where is it? There it is. See, now that dado is exactly 1/2 inch because it's fitting right there tight on this 1/2 inch piece of stock. Rather than mill this down, which would be a pain in the butt, I'll just widen the dado manually as I go through cutting these things out. So these are at the point where I want to do that now, and then I want to cut them off at the top in their exact length, and they're going to have a tenon on top of them as well. So let me set up for the run through now. Don't need this for the moment. Okay, so I don't need the miter fence, miter gauge for now. Put that away. I'll need that again in a bit. But I want to run these through to get those dados. And so it basically is run it through, turn it around, do the same thing with this one, and then move the fence a little bit to widen the dado to fit the heddle. I know, talking over power tools and things like that, but this is of course what I had in mind. So now the heddles will move up and down cleanly in the towers. Now these will also get some beeswax in there to give it a little bit of lubrication. So there's the tenon that goes in the mortise on the base of the thing, and then there's the slots for the heddles. The last things I cut on our old CNC are those heddles. So now I want to do the ends here. And I'll have to set the fence up again for a little bit of better clearance. I think we got it. So when I want to nip off these parts to get the to fit it into the mortise. Now these mortises are radiused on the corners because I did it on CNC with a 1/4" bit. So I just want to get this to it'll fit in there, and then we'll round the corners of the tenons. So more noise. Okay, so there's the tenons for the bottom of the towers. So they'll fit into the table top of the table of the loom. Next thing to do is to let's see. Next thing to do is to get the height correct and do the tenons for the top. That's the crossover piece that's going to hold it all together. And here's the quasi-finished product, almost finished product. So this is the tenon for this mortise here, I think. There it goes in there. And this is the tenon for this mortise here. There, it fit nice and tight. These two tenons are for the top that's going to sit there. And this needs to have mortises cut into it. And they have to be very precise because normally you cut the mortise first and match the tenon to the mortise. In this case, I had to cut the tenon first and I have to match the mortise to the tenon. So that's going to require some finicky work. But that comes down, has two wedges on either side that go into these tenons, and that locks it in place so that it can't move. And then which have to be trimmed down to size, go up and down in here. I got to take about, I don't know, a 1/4 inch off each side of this to make it fit. We always make them a little oversized so we can fit them to the thing. And once that's done, and this is set and sanded and everything's ready to go, and then I've done the round over on each side, or actually the beading on each side, corner, 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 around. Then I think I can start assembling. No, I have to do the legs. Oh my God, we got to do the legs. And that requires 4 tapers in the legs. So they're tapered on. All 4 sides of the legs are tapered. So in that case, let me get on with, I'm going to pre-drill these with a Forstner bit, and then go ahead and cut them out by hand. But before I do that, I'm going to start the edges like if you were doing dovetails. I'm going to start where the lines are, carving in there and then notching it so that you've got a stop point for, you'll see what I mean, I'll show you in a minute. I have a stop point for your chisels. So that's next, drill holes, that's next. Well, there you go. So the towers are in place, mortised into they're not finished, they're not permanently in there. This is the top that holds them together at the top. I have to cut in a through mortise here for a roller for the. See how good those slide up and down? Whoops. Let me get this up to see. They're heavy. There. See? How good that slides up and down? So there's a roller that goes in here, and it connects to some leather thong to the tops of these. There's leather thongs to the top of these that are connected to the foot pedals. And so these can go up and down at will by the maker who's making the tape. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to end this video right here because there's a 2-part series on my channel, which I'll link in the description, of Mara and I building 2 of these, I believe, or 3. And you can go look at those to get more detail. But right now, I'm going to end this video here. And I'll go on and finish this out, because the reason is basically why I'm doing this by myself now is Mara has a medical issue. Comes with age. She needs a hip. And so we're working on that right now. But that's going to be fine. That's going to be absolutely fine. So anyhow, I should become a cyborg, you know? A special ticket to go through the metal detector at the airport. So until next time, as always, make really great things out of wood and build some fun projects.